So we are going to dive into our presentation. And first, we're gonna talk about our objectives. So we have three objectives for the training of today. The first one is to know how to identify who is ICE and what they look like. The second one is to learn our rights under the law. The third one is to create an action plan to be prepared. And I want to take a moment here to pause and say that this is not legal advice. And likewise, as Katie mentioned, if you have a very specific question that is a really personal question, please do not put it on the chat because this is shared publicly. Instead, contact us and we will be happy to help. We can answer other general questions too. Next slide, please. All right. So we will be talking about immigration enforcement. Next slide. Next slide. And first, we're going to talk about who is the Department of Homeland Security. We've been throwing this word around, ICE, right? And ICE just means Immigration and Customs Enforcement, which is a department of the Department of Homeland Security. And you can think of them as like the police or enforcement department of the Department of Homeland Security, as well as CBP, which is also part of the Department of Homeland Security. And it means Customs and Border Patrol. And you can find these CBP mostly 100 miles from the border. And when you think of the border, maybe you think of only the southern border, but we also have a northern border. We also have a sea border and lake borders, making the city of Chicago a border town, which was mind-blowing when I learned this. And where you could find CBP. You can think of ICBP as like the enforcement or the police department of the Department of Homeland Security. Then we have USCIS, which historically had just been the administrative side of DHS. It stands for U.S. Citizen and Immigration Services. But during this administration, we have seen the collaboration of USCIS with ICE to lead to arrest. Then we have HSI, which is the Homeland Security Investigation. You will see this more in like targeted raids, maybe towards a specific business. We saw those in Liberty raid that happened. HSI is you can think of them as like the FBI of the Department of Homeland Security. And then we finally have TSA, which is the department that you will find maybe in the airports, yelling at people to take off their hoodies and their belts and their shoes. Next slide, please. So to stay very up to date, it's important to stay very up to date with the local enforcement that and that of the agencies that do local enforcement that collaborate with ICE. So recently, it was announced that KBI, which is the state version of the FBI, had begun collaborating with ICE, and also in the state of Missouri, the Missouri Highway Patrol entered into a 287G agreement, which allows them to intake immigration data. Next slide, please. So one of our objectives is to identify how or what does ICE look like. And many times they will wear a vest, and they will wear their quote unquote uniforms, which as you can see here are like jeans and a regular shirt, but what makes it different is the vest that says police, HSI, which is the department. Sometimes it would say eyes only. Sometimes it would only say police. Um, but we have been seeing this pattern of seeing them masked up, or with their best as well. Next slide, please. But also, we have seen them undercover without any kind of sign that they are federal agents. And they're required to wear their badges, but they could be in a place where when you interact with them in the moment, you can't notice it. That could be their hip or tucked under their hoodie or their shirt. So it is possible that somebody who doesn't look like ICE or who doesn't wear a vest could be ICE or part of the Department of Homeland Security. Um, and now, what do they drive? So in previous times, we have been seeing them only drive American cars, but more recently, we have been seeing them drive like trucks like Nissan or even Hyundais, um, and no sign that they are a federal agent at all or a car for federal agents. Not even the plates or a siren look like they are a policing agency. What we have been seeing is that they are having tinted windows and vans as well. And what we have also been seeing is or what you can also see, it's that car over here that has the sign of Homeland Security and that says police. That is also part of the Department of Homeland Security. So now that we have identified who is ICE and what they look like, um, what can we do if we encounter ICE agents? So first, it's a very hard moment, and we know that it is a very um, scary moment. So remember to take a deep breath and stay calm and ground yourself in knowing that we have rights no matter who we are or what our status is. We have rights under the Constitution of the United States. It's important to speak respectfully, to not escalate the or attempt to use force against an officer, to not run or advise others to run, um, to not carry any false identification, and to not offer any false information, because this is a crime. All of this can escalate an encounter with a federal agent or with an ICE agent in general. So it's important to be grounded in knowing that we have rights, and we can move on to the next slide. Um, and we're gonna dive deeper into our rights under the Constitution. So some of the rights that apply to us in this or that are relevant to the immigrant community in this specific moment is the First Amendment, the Fourth Amendment, the Fifth, and the Fifth Amendment. So for the First Amendment, you have the right to record interactions with law enforcement officers. If a law enforcement officer tells you that you have to stop recording, you can reiterate that you have the right to record interactions. If they order you to back off, just back off, but you have the right to record. The Fourth Amendment, you have the right to refuse a search warrant. This is very important right that we have. And we will dive deeper into how we can enforce this right when we talk about warrants. The Fifth Amendment, you have the right to remain silent, and you also have the right to due process of law. Next slide, please. So when we talk about due process, there's one specific thing that I do want to mention, which is expedited removal. So for expedited removal, um, first it was only 100 miles in the border in that CBP area zone that I explained. However, now expedited removal has been extended to the whole country, so it applies even to Kansas or Missouri, and all throughout the nation. And expedited removal is a process allowing rapid deportation without seeing an immigration judge. And this applies or is used by ICE or CBP when they arrest someone inside the US, applies um, to people who have been in the US less than 2 years. The only exception is if the person expresses fear of returning to their home country and passes a fear screening interview for asylum. Um, DHS has been using this against individuals, or might be using this against individuals who entered through parole programs. And what we're seeing is that this group of people have been targeted at ICE check-ins or immigration courts um, by being arrested. So how can we protect ourselves? First, carry evidence proving at least 2 years in the US. An example could be a piece of mail, a lease, a vaccination record, school records, church records. Second can be carrying proof of lawful entry or pending immigration cases if applicable. Often, USCIS will give you a receipt. Um, the third thing to remember is to keep copies of documents to avoid losing the originals. So all of these things like the proof of being at least 2 years in the US, or the receipt from USCIS or proof of lawful entry. Please remember to carry copies of these documents so we don't lose originals. Next slide, please. We're having some technology issues, so we're gonna skip the videos, but we do have some slides that reiterate what the videos are trying to explain, so I will do my best to explain. Like the videos, they're pretty engaging. And they have them in the power packets that we will drop in the chat at the end. So you can watch those as well. So what to do if ICE is at our doors? So remembering the steps is very important. First, do not open the door. This is the most important step out of everything we teach you today. um, just kidding, everything is important. But do not open the door. ICE can only open with a valid judicial warrant, signed by a judge. You can request an official arrest warrant, and it is important to record and take notes of the interaction. Yeah, and we will go into what a official arrest warrant is. Next slide, please. All right, so a judicial warrant. A judicial warrant is what we're referring to when we say a valid warrant. It is signed by a federal judge. They often authorize a search, and it might give the officer the right to enter your private property. A warrant from ICE does not authorize them to enter your home or private property. And when they authorize the search, make sure to read very carefully because sometimes it might only authorize the search at a specific part of your private property, whether it be a building, a home, or a car. Um, it might only give them authorization to search a specific part of your private property. Next slide, please. All right. And this is what a administrative warrant looks like from ICE. This is what ICE will try to show often, most often than in most cases, ICE will not have any kind of warrant, whether it be a judicial warrant signed by a judge or an ICE administrative warrant. But if they have a warrant, most likely it is an ICE administrative warrant. And this warrant authorizes an arrest, but it does not authorize to enter private property. For private property, we would need a judicial warrant. So this is not valid to enter your private property, whether it be your car, your building, or your house. Often at the bottom, it will say Form I-200 or I-205. All right, so what does a judicial warrant look like? We have an example right at the in these slides. And as you can see, at the top it says United States District Court, and at the bottom it says the name of the judge, or the title of the judge, and it also has its signature and it is signed. It will include a name of a person, and if your name is not spelled correctly, um, technically, um, you do not have to follow ICE orders. That is not the person who they're looking for. You can stay calm and in English or in Spanish tell the officers, I am using my right to remain silent and I don't have to answer your questions. Whether it be in English or in Spanish or your native language, it doesn't matter. All of these phrases are important to state and may be able to help you during a deportation defense case. All right. So what happens if we open the door or if they force their way in? What to do if they're inside our house? Um, so tell them that you do not consent them being there, whether it be in Spanish or in English, um, or in your native language. Also, it's important to remain silent. Our Fifth Amendment gives us the right to remain silent. You can tell the officer, I am using my right to remain silent, and refuse to answer any of their questions. Do not share anyone's location. Um, they may try to be conversational and ask you for information, but you have the right to remain silent. Do not show any documents. Um, and also do not interfere with any arrest. Interfering with an arrest could cause more harm to the person being arrested, and it is advisable um, to not escalate the situation. And what happens if you're on the street or in your car? You have the right to ask the officers to identify themselves, ask them for their badge number, their name. You have the right to ask, am I free to go? Um, Again, you have the right to remain silent um, until you speak to an attorney. You have the right to refuse a search. Again, request a warrant, whether it be for the search of your car, which is private property, or entering your car, which is private property. And you also have the right to record. And finally, what to do if you're arrested. If you're arrested, you have the same rights. You can remain silent, and ask to speak to a lawyer. You can request to see a judge for a bond. We You can contact your emergency contact and request to speak to your consulate or embassy. And do not sign anything. You have the right to not sign anything that has not been looked over by a lawyer. Often they will try to make you sign your auto deportation and sign away your rights. Um, but it is important to stay firm in our rights and remember that if one gets arrested, it doesn't mean that our case is over. Our case has just begun. And when it comes to consulates and embassies, I want to talk a little bit more on this because consulates and embassies have resources for their nationals. So it it is important that you know your consulate. Every consulate can help advocate for their community. They can confirm or help locate loved ones in detention centers and can intervene at times and provide services. Um, Identifying the following things is important: their nearest location. So for Mexican nationals, they are very lucky because they have a Mexican consulate here in Kansas City. But it doesn't mean that if you're a resident in Kansas City and your consulate is in Chicago or in other parts of the nation that they will not have resources for you. They might have resources for you. So it's important to identify where they're at, their phone number, email, and if possible, contact them ahead of time to know what services they might be able to provide. Um, as I mentioned, the Consulate of Mexico is in KC. It's open to all. It helps connect to other consulates, and also provides information and workshops on know your rights. For Mexican nationals, it can provide representation, can provide medicine, can help locate a loved one at a detention center, and can provide assistance with cases. And if a loved one has been detained, um, a couple ways that you can locate them is to visit locator.ice.gov or call the number on screen. What you will need is their A number, and an A number it's what's given to people who have had an interaction with ICE or yeah. You will need their full name, their birth date, and their country of origin. If this is the first time that they have had an interaction with ICE, it will probably take um a few hours or days to receive an A number. But also, what you can do if your loved one is detained in Kansas City, or close to Kansas City, the patterns that we have been seeing is that people detained close to Kansas City have been sent to Chase County in Kansas or Greene County in Missouri. Or it's not on the screen here, but they might have been sent to the FCI in Leavenworth, which is the federal prison in Leavenworth. So those are important databases to look into if a loved one has been detained. All right, so now we go into our third objective, creating a plan. Um, yeah, creating a plan is important in order to put that plan in action when someone is detained. Next slide, please. So these are parts of the plan. First, find an immigration lawyer that does immigration deportation defense. Um, Make sure that they can take your case, and that you get advice for your case specifically. The second one is to memorize important numbers. Um, Nowadays, I know we don't memorize important numbers because everything is in our phone. But this is an important moment to realize that we have to memorize those important contact numbers, especially our emergency contact, which should be a US citizen in order to um, manage all of the things that we have given them custody over. Also look into power of attorneys and for your property. Um, where is your property of your children going to have custody? These power of attorneys can help not have two legal battles going on because that can be even more um of a strain to your finances, to you emotionally at the moment, and one legal battle is already heavy enough. Having two is it's pretty impossible. And also, the fourth thing is to save money for legal fees. None of this is cheap. No immigration lawyer will be assigned to you, like in the um, I believe in the criminal side of things, it is assigned to you. And in the immigration side, it is not. You will have to seek your particular immigration lawyer. So now we're gonna go into some resources that we offer. Next slide, please. Here's the power packets that I was mentioning. You can scan or also, I believe we're gonna drop the link in the chat. But by scanning this QR code, you gain access to the videos that we had planned for you tonight. But also you get access to our lawyer list, which is made by community recommendations, and you get access to other important information, like flyers on what to do if ICE is at your door, so you can remember these steps. Know your rights cards, so you can distribute them to your community or in your family, and other important resources for schools, for organizations, um, for a lot of things. Next slide. So, there's a couple things that I want to highlight on our day-to-day safety. Um, a couple steps that we can take in order to protect ourselves digitally. So protect your social media. It's important to keep our profiles private and not share any personal details. Of course, do not share your immigration status online. Um, it is scary times, and it is important that we protect ourselves. Um, Prevent harmful online interactions, avoid engaging with bots and trolls, don't engage with hateful accounts, and also be aware of scams. Um, a really important tool in our power packet is the lawyer list, because these are made through community recommendations, and we avoid scams. Also secure yourself. Leave your phone at home during a protest, download Signal, and never share your live location online, only with trusted contacts. Community advice is to get a car checkup, update your stickers, and drive safely. We don't want any excuses for a police interaction, or yeah, be aware of your surroundings. And if traveling, be aware of the loss of your destination site. We live in Kansas City, which is a city that is between two states. Be aware of both state laws. From state to state and county to county, know your current policies. We went over in, I believe, the beginning of the presentation, over the local enforcement, those of ICE. So those are policies that we should be keeping up with, specifically. Carry your ID, have your identification, example, driver's license, citizen ID with you. Um, Next slide. Again, if we have specific questions, here's our contact information. And you can email us or call us if you have specific questions. We also have a direct line to report ICE activity. So you can dial this number at any point when you see an ICE sighting. But you can contact our top number for any general inquiry or information if you want more information on how to get involved. That's also our contact number. All right, so that's all we have planned for today. Usually the presentation runs longer for the videos, but remember that information is power. You have rights. It is difficult times, but it is important to stay grounded in knowing that we have rights, no matter your status. We hope that this presentation gives you a better idea of your constitutional rights and pushes you into continue educating yourself and others on this topic. Again, I want to reiterate that this is not legal advice. We're just seeking to educate our community. Thank you so much. Now we're passing to the time of the questions. And I will go ahead and look at the questions.
Sam, un momento. I'm gonna just turn off interpretation and we can just answer consecutively the questions in English and Spanish. I think that'll be easier.
Will do.
Entonces, como les dije a los que hablan español, vamos a estar respondiendo las preguntas. Tienen aquí el chat, si tienen otras preguntas, pónganlas en el chat y vamos a estar respondiendo en inglés y en español. Dale, Sam.
So the first question, I believe, is could you list the address for Kansas City Consulate?
Entonces, la primera pregunta dice, ¿puede poner la dirección del consulado en Kansas City? Y sí, aquí se las ponemos.
We will type it.
Es 1617 Baltimore Avenue, 1617 Baltimore.
All right, and the second question is there a report about where ICE is active in Kansas City?
La segunda pregunta es, ¿hay algún reporte sobre actividad de migración en Kansas City?
I really encourage you to stay involved and contact us to our email or phone number that we listed at the top.
Es muy importante que sigan nuestra actividad que tenemos en línea. Ahí publicamos cuando hay actividad de migración, si es que llega a haber alguna. Y recuerden el número que les dimos al último, que termina en 2398 para reportar actividad de migración. Están poniendo en el chat otra vez.
Something I forgot to say in English, but Itzel just said in Spanish, was to also follow us online. We make a lot of community message on these reports. So I would highly encourage us to follow us online. We are on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn. Another question says, is this the same presentation as you will give in Lawrence this Saturday?
Otra pregunta ¿es la misma presentación que harán en Lawrence este sábado? No, I can't answer that. No, it's not. This is a Know Your Rights, what we're doing in Lawrence is an Immigration 101. Entonces, no es la misma presentación que hay en Lawrence, también vamos a colaborar con la biblioteca de Lawrence. Este sábado es una presentación diferente que la que le llamamos Inmigración 101. Había otra pregunta sobre las ceremonias de naturalización. ¿Viste
Yeah.
esa pregunta?
It says, my organization is hosting 2 naturalization ceremonies later this month. What can I do to ensure it is safe for participants and their families? Is it safe to express my concerns with my contacts at USCIS and the US courts?
La pregunta dice, mi organización está teniendo 2 ceremonias de naturalización al finales del mes. ¿Qué puedo hacer para asegurarme que los participantes y sus familias estén seguros? Sería bueno hablar sobre mis preocupaciones con UCIS y las Cortes de Estados Unidos.
if you
I
like to.
would say message us. If you want to email us, and this is something that we've been talking about as a team. So I want to encourage if you can email us and we can talk about a safety plan. Entonces le digo a la persona que hizo esa pregunta que nos envíe un correo electrónico. Esto es algo que ya hemos estado hablando a nuestro equipo, cómo tener un plan de seguridad en este tipo de eventos. Okay.
And then the next question says, buenas tardes, la policía está trabajando con ICE aquí en Kansas City, Missouri.
So that question says, good afternoon, is the police working with ICE here in Kansas City, Missouri? So oficialmente no, no hay un acuerdo entre la policía de Kansas City, Missouri, ni ningún departamento aquí localmente. Nuevamente estoy hablando de un acuerdo oficial, que es este acuerdo que se llama 287G. Sin embargo, es muy importante entender que cuando hay algún arresto o detención, o por ejemplo, si le dan una multa por no licencia, su información se pone en el sistema. Entonces, una vez que su información está en el sistema, esa es información a la que tienen acceso migración y todas las agencias federales. Entonces, aunque no hay colaboración directa, sí hay contacto entre las agencias y las policías, las agencias federales y la policía local. So I was just explaining very quickly, there is no formal agreement between the KC Police Department or any of the local police departments in the metro that we know of, not those 287G agreements that we were mentioning, but sometimes when somebody gets detained or is pulled over, for example, for driving without a license, in which your information gets put into the system, then that information in the system goes into databases that the federal agencies have access to, including immigration. So there's no direct collaboration, but there is a sort of connection between local law enforcement and immigration agencies. Como recordatorio, como hablamos en la presentación al principio, la única agencia ahorita que sabe, las dos agencias que sabemos que sí tienen contratos con migración es el KBI, que es Policía Estatal de Kansas, es el FBI de Kansas y la Patrulla Fronteriza de Missouri. Estas son las policías que están en el highway, en las carreteras. Sorry, dije patrulla fronteriza, me quise decir patrulla de carreteras. Ellos sí, y ellos van a estar en todas las partes del estado, incluyendo Kansas City. Entonces, es muy importante que sepan, porque si viven del lado de Missouri, o incluso si una persona que está en Kansas va a Missouri y tienen contacto con el Highway Patrol o la patrulla de carreteras, puede llevar a una detención. Y ya hemos escuchado localmente de una historia como esa. Justamente una persona de Kansas City, Kansas, que fue detenida en Missouri por Highway Patrol y lo entregaron a migración. So again, there's no local law enforcement agreements. However, just to remind you, the Highway Patrol in Missouri does have an agreement with ICE, and they will help with immigration enforcement. We've already seen one case of a man from Kansas City, Kansas, who went into Missouri, and he was stopped by Missouri Highway Patrol, and he was actually turned over to ICE. I believe that article was in KCUR. You can see that story.
Alrighty. Well, that's all the questions that we have today.
Me
And
parece que son todas las preguntas.
that's all we have prepared for you today. Thank you so much for your attendance.
Eso es todo lo que tenemos para el día de hoy. Muchas gracias por acompañarnos esta noche.
Thank you for attending, and thank you so much, AIR, for presenting this tonight.
Gracias nuevamente por acompañarnos y gracias a AIR por esta presentación.